Hi, everyone. Hey, everyone. Can you guys see the screen? It just keeps going in and out on my end, so just confirm that you can actually see it. Sometimes, I don't know why it disappears like that. Anyway, we had some odds right now. That's why I wanted to do it closer to like 2:30, 3 o'clock. There were some odds just before 3 around 2:48 and 2:50 to finally test 6942, 6941. I know it's kind of been a brutal afternoon with market just kind of staying stuck, but I figured if they make it in that pinnable scenario, it would make sense that they probably won't push range until the last hour of the day. Does that make sense? Just to kind of keep it pinnable. So when I went back and looked at this, these were the pinnable areas like above here. So you can kind of see that they basically on the first clearance of 2-4, so since 1207, like just before mid-session, had they kept pushing right here, then I feel like we would have had some pretty good odds to continue, okay? But you can see that they doubled in time, so 25, 25, 50, okay? You can kind of see that. So, and I noticed that once they finally cleared 693233, then same thing. You can kind of see how this kind of started to extend. So I knew that this would take probably a minimum of like an hour to an hour and a half. And it's quite evident based on the times that they stalled. Like, do you see this here? So what's 57 times 2? 114. Okay, so this implied that we probably have better odds closer to like this point in the day. Does that make sense to you guys? Just based on how structures reacted around our price points, especially off these points in time. Okay, and I could see that there's maybe some odds that they get like some 14 to 16 minute clearance breaks a bit early. So that would be like right about now. Do you see it? Let me know if you guys understand this concept, because it is pretty important that you try understanding this, but kind of like this 12-minute range. Okay, do you see that? So there's some odds of breaking high of day at this point in time here. Okay, as early as that 48, 47, whatever. Can you guys confirm that you can hear? I'm not talking my head off for nothing. Okay, do you understand this concept here? Like in terms of like a delay, you can essentially assume doubling your time range or something. An early break, okay? Because here they kind of stalled, but maybe they do it a bit early this time. Does that make sense? Kind of the same thing as range reduction, but time reduction, I guess, or expansions. I don't really know how to phrase that. And I'm doing it based off our calculated spots. So the time that they cleared, 6924, okay? And the time that they tested, you can look at 693132. And the time that they actually cleared, 693132. Does that make sense? They're not just based off random spots. It has to be a calculated level. That's how you get a calculated time. Does that make sense? That's when people ask me like, how do you time things? Like it's not that simple. Like, you have to know what the calculated price is in order to time it properly. And I could tell that even when they started kind of delaying right here that they probably wouldn't clear. You can kind of see here too. You see like the structure hold right here off the 25-minute mark right here. If we looked at it from like the very, very, very first attempt of like 6922, 6922 is not as calculated, which is why I didn't think that that would be as probable, but these areas were definitely more calculated. I would say if you look at it from like the time that they finally broke 3-2 and the amount of delays right here, like at least an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours. Probably the same timing that they had some structure breaks right here, like you can kind of see. Do you see that? Can you guys pay attention here, please? This is something I don't always share, but like listen to this, okay? This is kind of like a way of backtracking. You see these range reductions here? Do you see it? Do you see the similarities in time and price? Okay, like 123 bars while it's been stuck. Okay, do you see that? Probably some better odds closer to like 307, 308. Okay, if we did the same off the points in time that, let me clear this so it's a bit easier to see. If you did the same thing off the points in time that so these points here, okay? These points here. Let's just put 6, 9, 2, 4, 2, 8, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 8, 4, 2. Okay. Do you see this? This is pretty obvious that this is when they initially cleared. So like there could be, but this wasn't like a full clearance break. This obviously stalled a little bit, okay? This is where I had that 57-minute marked, okay? But do you see this? Do you see like the retest here? Are you guys paying attention? And the stalls, this is how I knew that they'd probably extend, okay? So you could double that range. So 57 by 2. Okay. See what I mean? This is the point in time where they need to try turning it around, okay? Are you listening? Do you see it? Do you see where they stalled? Okay, this range in here, and by range I'm talking about time range, okay? It's about 12 to 14 minutes basically. This could be the extension. This is how we'll know if they're going to give us those proper structure breaks. This is around the 12-minute mark right here. Okay. Do you see it? There's a wider range here of like 19 minutes. That's why I was saying like it could extend as far as like 305, 307. Okay. This is a very important window, just before and just after 3. Okay. When I went back and looked at this from a wider approach, so let's say like, let's just go with 124, 123 minutes. You can start with 114 if you want, but I feel like 114 would make sense if you're measuring like the smaller ranges. Makes some sense if you're measuring off the initial break, okay? I feel like the 122, 24 makes the most sense because that's including this little 12 to 14 minute window, okay? What happened here? What happened at this point in time here? I'm marking all of our important spots, by the way, just so that you guys have them, okay? And that you guys know, okay? What happened back there? What happened in here, you guys? It's pretty obvious, okay? You started the morning off. It wasn't the best open, but it was okay because they immediately defended and took out 6-8, 7-1, 6-8. There was a tiny reduction to start the morning off. Like they opened at 5-6 versus like 5-8, okay? Obviously opening closer to 5-8, 5-8.50 would have been a bit better. That's probably why. That's probably why they didn't get that full break of 7-8, okay, like right off the open. Do you see it? And why they likely stalled here. Do you see that? We're backtracking a little bit here, okay? They did test 69.06 though, so that was a positive. Then they came back and back tested. They held 6.872, so that's good. That means they held our 346 point ranges. Do you see it? This right here. This is crucial. Then they brought it back up here, but they stalled 69.14. Okay, 69.11, 69.12. Are these very calculated spots? 69.06, 69.11? If this is written right on the report, and it's written in the chat like probably 1,000 times. 69.06, 69.11 is the path to 69.33 retested, correct? Everyone's aware of that? That this is the path to break resistance? Yes? This is so important that you guys participate right now. Otherwise, I'm just going to end the stream. This is important, right? That's the path. So then they brought it back, and you can see, okay, they ended up sustaining this time. So this was a pretty good sustainment. And the reason why this was okay right here, this slight breach, is because we knew that they were within a 2.25 offset. Based on what? Based on where we opened. Correct? Because we didn't open at 5.8 or 5.9. We opened at 5.6. Okay? So this little tiny breach, it wasn't much, but this was still okay. This seemed more calculated. Beneath 7.8, 7.6, okay? Then they brought it back here. Same thing. Even though they didn't technically hold 8.7, 8.8, okay? Did they hold within that 2-point range or 2.25 range? Beneath 8.8. I need you guys to see the offsets. The offsets are just as important so that you guys understand price action. Okay, 5.6 is not a terrible open, but it didn't give us the absolute best odds, okay? Okay, 5.6 versus 5.8. 7.2, 7.6 versus 7.8, 8.1. Okay, 8.6 versus 8.8. Yeah, exactly. That keeps carrying forward. Okay, so, and this was good though that they did take out 06, but I noticed that they still stalled Do you see it? Do you see the 2-point stall beneath 14? Like beneath the neutral zone? They still managed to close above though, okay? This area sustaining becomes so crucial, that 69.11 spot, okay? Do you see the 69.11 hold right here? Maybe if you start writing stuff down, then you guys will see it better, because I feel like you guys just don't pay close enough attention to things sometimes, okay? Okay, but that's not my question though. My question is what happened at this point in time here? And look, you can see the 2.25 offset right here too. This is why they didn't trigger 2.4. Do you see it? Do you guys see that? I need you guys to see this. If you don't see it, there's an issue. You have to see the theme. And you see how it carries on from the second that they opened. $69.22 versus 24. Okay. It's not the end of the world, but obviously breaks over 2225 would have been better, okay? So, well, no one wants to chime in snack, so it's their loss, honestly. They don't want to participate. They don't want to learn. But what was progressive here? They held 69.11. Okay, that's progressive. They're starting to make some progress, okay? We could have afforded maybe some risk down to like 69.10, 69.10, 50, but this was a little bit progressive. Then you get the structure break, okay, of 2.4. And you can kind of see like they basically gave us that extended range or whatever. Same thing happens here though. What ends up happening here again? What happens here? Let me delete this. 6931. Do you see it? Can you guys at least lie and say yes? So that I don't feel like I'm talking for nothing while I'm sick. Okay. Again, they stole 3-3. Okay, they don't give us a break of 3-3. They don't get us in the channel. Same thing here. Okay. So there's some odds of like 40. And remember, like our previous closing ranges were around 39, 40, if you remember from like a few days ago. We're not going to progress until 1. When do we progress? And this is why this range is so freaking tight. Let me mark this in like yellow or something. Yes, exactly. Once you start getting an open close above 3950 and 42.5. Striker man, look at the question you're asking and look at what I'm teaching. I'm teaching you the exact increments the market's moving in. Think about what you're asking me and think about what I'm teaching you. You're not listening. If you're listening, you could answer that question yourself. What do you think? I'm giving you the exact time and exact range that you have to break at a certain time. I'm showing you how and why, and you're more concerned with that. Like, pay attention. I'm not trying to be a bitch. Listen. If you listen closely, you won't ask me questions like that. What are the calculated points in the day that we just talked about? 307, 308, 309, 304. What are they doing right now? 305? This is the final window. After this window, there's 0 odds. Okay? What are they doing at this time of day? Yes. This is probably the 25-minute window that we looked at earlier. Do you see it? I deleted some of the time ranges on here, but this is 19 minutes here. That was off the clearance. What's the most important aspect here, though? Why do you guys think this happened? This is what I was trying to get at. Why do you think this occurred? We have the best odds likely during this window here and this window here. This is a very important window. It's kind of the cutoff. Why is this important? What happened during this period of time right here? You guys, I could miss a very good trade right now, so you try to answer this. What happened during this period of time right here? At 10:46, 10:48, 10:49 a.m. That's a calculated time. What happened there? Why is this impacting the session today? This is how I knew that we were likely going to stay within a neutral range, especially when I saw how they started to act around mid-session. Mid-session was kind of like the window to reopen this odd. And these points in time were mid-session, 12:30, 12:45, 1, 1:15, 1:30. It broke down. Is that a lot of range right here, you guys, during this point in time? This range right here, is that a lot of range? That's at least 26 points. Okay? Or like 27 and a half. I don't see the full tick. Okay. Is that a lot of range taken away from us today? Yes. Where could you add that to? You could add it above 2.2 because that is with that 2.25 reduction. Okay. Does that mean that they can constrain us around 4.9? I'm trying to teach you guys something that I swear to God no one else is going to teach you. Okay. And these boring sessions are the best ones to do them. Okay. You can do it above that 2.4. Okay. So there's some odds around 5.1. You can try off the 3.8 or 2.8, right? Or 3.1 since this is, do you see what I'm saying? These take us back to which areas here? 5.8, 5.1, 4.9. Are these not those pinnable spots that we just talked about? 6.5. Do you see the confluence? Where did we stall last time? 6.9, 6.5, 7.5. Did we not stall 6.9, 6.6? Off the 7.1 hold. I didn't get the entry right off the open. It moved too fast this morning. I just kind of waited for a bit of a pullback around the 7.8 to 8.1 area. Okay, so do you see how there's a lot of confluence here? Do you see that if they clear these calculated areas above that 42.5 and that 39.50 based on that range reduction, do you see how it would just barely take out that high? Do you see the correlation? Do you understand how this is calculated? Do you see it? Closer to like 6, 7. Six, 7, 7, 5. Okay. off our actual ranges like 4175, 42. That's how you could get structure breaks to 6.9. Okay. Off of our 4.2, 4.4, do you see how you could get structure breaks to our 7.1 spot? Does it make sense? I need to make sure that you guys understand this. It's exactly, but it's also that 2-day range. That's the high, 6.96575. Do you understand that what they basically did is they reduced range during a very calculated time of day to delay and like potentially prevent us from getting there? Because had they not done this, they could have been trading around here as early as this point in time. Does that make sense? Do you see how that price is calculated to these reductions, to these points in time? I'm trying to show you how this reduction is linked to these price points. It's very complex. It's not, I'm not sitting here saying that this is like an easy thing to teach or study or whatever. I'm just trying to show you guys like how this could be interpreted, okay? Do you see how if they had extensions above these areas like the 4.9, 7.6, 7.9, that's why I was saying that there's a lot of confluence around basically just beneath 8.8, okay? 8.6. Whereas if you hit these big ranges, this is how they could get back to the zone 6.9, 9.3, 9.4, and maybe 7K. These areas max us out at 7K, okay? I didn't mark those other areas here like 7.8 and whatever, but that the 7.8 area, 7.9 is going to be close to that 70.06, 70.08. Do you see what I mean? And that 70.08 would max you out at 70.22. Okay? Do you see how you could have had those odds if you hit these price ranges during mid-session? Do you see how you could have actually pushed to these spots here? Do you see how if we had actually had like that full range, 7008 was the most calculated price point, okay, for today? Do you see how that would have been the 7036? Do you understand how like that is also the same thing as like these overnight lows? Okay, these are like the 173 point ratios here too. That's not a coincidence. That's our 6924. That's half of 346. Do you see how these are our 256 point ranges at 08? Okay, like this is extremely calculated, and it's not an easy thing to teach, but understanding it from like a time and price and range reduction perspective and the kind of PA that occurs is the only way that you're gonna be able to like try to start implementing this yourself. And it's, I'm not saying it's something easy to do, it's just something that like it can be done. So what do we make of this price action here? So this was the period of time, okay? What happened here? Did they test 6.93950? A lot of names also kind of just stayed still, and NVIDIA is a little bit stronger than some. XOM stalled exactly our 149.56 target, but still holding off our 148. Semis were pretty strong. Banks were really strong today. Lots of strength in like Citi. Bank of America, I think, was the strongest. Okay. So yes, we met this condition at this point in time. Did we clear 694025? 694025 is extremely calculated. Okay, these are the calculated spots. Did they clear that spot? They didn't clear it, but they tested it. Okay, do you guys think our conditions were met at our calculated time points, which was in here? I'm gonna say yes. Okay, they were tested. They weren't cleared, okay, but that could still give us a potential probability. Does that make sense? Do you see this? Do you see this? Okay, So does that give us a tiny window now? I'm measuring from here to here. Okay, and I could be off by like a minute or two, but I just want you guys to see the... Okay, so we were looking here. Okay, is there still a potential window to try retesting it? Yes. Okay. What would be the issue if they don't test it during this window? This, because that's now 57 minutes. Would we have any odds to break range in real time if they do not clear those areas at that point in time? No. Do you see how that would limit your odds in real time? Because once this period passed, they basically failed breaking here at the 21 mark. This right here. Do you see that? And the overall range basically has been like 183 minutes. Like 183 minutes is pretty insane, because that would take you until basically end of session. Okay, that's like where you could have like durational till session close technically, but like the odds of that are pretty low. Something else you could do is, instead of, and I only do this if the morning open was calculated, but in this case it wasn't, which is why I wasn't really measuring off that. But you could also technically measure off opening ranges if you wanted. I haven't done this just because I didn't think it was that calculated, but maybe it would give us like some slight odds of like getting some clearance breaks. Like that's, see, like it's calculated but off a reduction. Does that make sense? Like look, this based off opening range, okay, and based off like these morning sticks, okay, and off these time intervals here, okay. Do you see how like that was the time that they cleared 6922, 6924, but like not a full range break? So you could still use those increments if you wanted to, like the 76 minutes, but I don't think it's going to be as accurate. Okay, like it can maybe give you like the points where like they back test. So let's see, from here to here. Okay, and the final window from open would be from here to here. That's exactly 4 o'clock. Isn't that insane? So if they clear at this point in time here, could this be durational till close based on opening ranges and the structural breaks that they had at specific price points? So it took them 76 minutes to retest and break 6906, 6911. 76 minutes to break 6924. 76 minutes to come back and sustain here. 76 minutes to retest here. And this 76 minutes runs till close. Yes. The most calculated times of day are right now. 69.42 being tested here. 320, 321 through 324 window is our cutoff period basically for 69.39, 69.40 to be tested and cleared. This is why I was saying I could miss a potential big trade here, showing you guys this, because I promise no one else is going to show you guys this. Look at that stick break. 694344 being tested. 694375 was the first calculated range above these areas here. That's insane. Do you see that? That's a perfect example of time and price. This is the first target off that 27.5 interval, by the way. The ones I have marked in here. Isn't that insane? Okay. 69.42.25 close. That's extremely calculated. This is going to be probably one of the more advanced sessions I stream, but I figured that this is a good opportunity to do it. So measuring off the open can give you the duration, but these points in time for structure breaks could give you the times that you're going to actually have the proper ideal points in time, I guess, where like they actually fully clear and break range. Okay? These are really important windows right here. So that being said, do we have some odds of getting these price ranges here into the close today? I feel like 69, 67, and 71 could be a little bit hard just based off where they opened. But like I was saying earlier, if they make this kind of pinnable, it would be like the range would be between 6924 and 64. Okay. And so far, that played out to be very true. If you clear the whole chart, look at where they've been holding. This 22, 24, 28, 32. You're not going to get progressive price action until you clear 32 and until you clear that 3940 wall. Okay? So to answer that question that you were asking, is this a short covering rally? We're going to make new highs soon? I think what I just showed you should answer that question for you. We have to test 69.43.75. That's the calculated spot here during this calculated point in time. And I could be off by a minute or two. Like there could be a break at 2.5, but this is definitely the window. And I would rewatch this session 1,000 times if I were you. Because I promise no one's going to teach you how to trade like this. Do you see how they're stalling 69.43.75? That's insane. That is actually crazy. Nice, Arun. I'm happy to hear that. The thing is like some people just, people always tell me, I want to learn how to chart. I want to learn how to, but like they actually don't. They just want to make money fast. That's it. They don't actually want to learn. And I can tell just by how people probe questions if they actually want to learn or if they're just looking to make a trade. But like this should make total sense, okay? And the crazy thing is, you guys, like our weekly report, these were my max downside ranges. Like that is actually insane. Like if you're not studying this, I don't know what I'm supposed to tell you guys. Like these were our max ranges for the week, okay? Think about where they held and where they tested. That's insane. So I know that these areas are calculated. Look at how it's measured off this point in price and time off 69.06.11, off 69.24.32, off 69.42.38. It's crazy. But, and look at what they're doing at these points in time. So, what do you guys think? Are all conditions met here for this to have continuation into the 4 p.m. close? And I'll share my thoughts with you guys once you answer that. Thanks, Arun. I don't like hearing like people say, "Oh, this is chop, this is choppy price action." It's like everything that the market does is calculated. There's nothing that the market does that's just like, "Oh, I hate hearing those terms and those verbiages because you could have easily said the same thing about this, but I just showed you how and why this is so calculated. This isn't the market chopping around. This is the market being extremely strategic, limiting range, compressing into a weekly close to likely try taking it back to where the week opened and where the week closed, which is literally in this area here. And that makes total sense. And that was after testing both sides. They tested 70.20s and they tested 67.50s. They basically tested both ends of the trade and they're trying to take it. So, okay, Brendan, that's where I'll correct you with that. So that could be, that doesn't necessarily mean they can't continue, because the conditions for continuation are not that it has to hit 694375. It was that it has to, where's those check marks? It was that it has to test these areas at these points in time. So that 3950, that 40.25, and that it clears these areas at these points in time. So I would say that the conditions for these price points to be in play for the last hour of the session were met. The price action, okay, once it cleared and tested the first target of 694375, implied that we could see what? This is how you have to interpret the kind of PA that you're going to get now at these price points. Not that you can't continue, because conditions for continuation were met. There's a huge difference there. You have to understand the price and what it means. I can assure you, I've seen several times where like some news comes out, it's at a calculated time and it was at a calculated price that's linked to like the 346 or 173 or 256 point ranges. Brendan, does that make sense though? That it's not so much about like the upside targets, but about the conditions that have to be met for these to be in play. So I think the fact that they stalled 4375 doesn't, no, but it's a good comment, because some people could confuse 4375 stalling as like this being done. But I feel like these conditions being met can keep this in play till 4. But it could keep implying those reductions, you know what I mean? Like the 2 points, 2.25, or like those delays. Like I feel like we could still use the 12 to 14 minute delays, like those windows. Does that make sense? Like we could still keep using those, but because I don't think that the trend of the PA will change. I just think that it would be basically more compressed or delayed is literally all it is. So like off these highs, like the 12, 14 minute windows. Maybe past this point in time though, like past like this window here is when I would be a bit more concerned if it doesn't come back and test and clear. Does that make sense? Like if they hit like this kind of a window and then it stalls or something. Yeah, no, I wasn't really expecting like a super fast, because they could pin these areas. Like these areas are literally where we started the week and where we closed the week. And they're the calculated spots too. 6942 is extremely calculated. And even this kind of PA off these areas here, like this should give you an idea. Like they're taking it back to 3.8. This is where you could start implementing like the reductions in range, okay? These are probably linked to these next price points here. Do you see it? Do you see that? And that makes total sense. 5.75, 5.75. This was 0.25 lower than it needed to be. If this was a little bit higher, do you see how it's linked to that 694950? That's pretty crazy. So they're already starting to limit range just a little bit during this period. What's the only thing that this has on its side right here? But okay, you know what your issue is, Strikerman? You're thinking of this as a chart and technical analysis. I don't really consider my type of analysis technical analysis. I'm not using indicators, and I'm not using like certain, this is strictly based off math and time. Those are two things that cannot be altered. Does that make sense? You can't change time, and you like whatever plus whatever or subtract, or you can't change what the equation is going to be. Does that make sense? This isn't based off like a chart or a technical or whatever. This is based off specific conditions, specific price points that have to be, that's kind of like an algorithmic way of like looking at it. So, and it's not that Trump, you know, announcements can't obviously make changes, but even then it's still calculated. There's still a specific price point or condition or time or something that was triggered before, after, during, at that point in time. And we've seen it 1,000,001 times. Like, look, exactly my point. Look at when they're coming back to try retesting here. Right off that 12 to 14 minute window. Okay? So it's not about like this is when I'd have raise more concern that they're probably going to start limiting range. Okay? This is kind of like the stall. Seems like best odds are around the 3.6, 3.8 window, but I did measure off the initial stick break just to see the secondary stick break, which would be here off the 14 or here. These have the best odds, like the 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, 3.8. Are you guys okay if I clear the chart now? Like, the stream is saved, so you guys can go back and rewatch this as many times as you want, but I don't want to forget clearing it and then delete my my chart again. Okay. Oh, I should have taken down the price points though. That's the only thing that I should have done. What was it? 27.5 points that we were measuring? I'll tell you guys what though, based on how this price action is trading, I can tell that they might want to constrain it to the channel a little bit unless they really start breaking, but to me this seems like they want to probably pin the channel just based on how this price is like reacting at these points here, and also like based off the morning stalls, like these areas being closely linked with the channel. Do you see that, like the constraints there? There's more probability like closer to here, but these points in time are also linked directly to the close, I think, when we measured it, wasn't it? Like these points in time. Excuse me. Yeah, a lot of those odds are after the bell. Thank you. what was that price point above here? 4375. No, I hold over the weekends sometimes. Oh, sorry, I didn't even realize that sub-only chat was on. I didn't even know that was turned on. It depends on where we pin. And it depends on the structures, obviously. Well, I think the fact that they sustained 6752 and also tested 7028 still keeps us at, it's basically like you're kind of playing with fire on both ends because you still have this area here. Okay, this area is a huge area of risk, and then you still have to break 7028 and 7032. Does that make sense? They've left room on both ends. So a lot of it is going to be relative to like the area that they pin us. So there's two ways you can look at it. I mean, on a very dumbed down approach, you could just maybe see like the mid-range, and I wouldn't measure off this low. I'd measure off like our 6, 7, or 6, 8, 7, 6, 6, 7, 2. Being closer to 5.2, 5.4 would give you like better odds of retesting upside. Okay, because that means you're likely to sustain 6.8, 6.6, 6.8, 7.1, 6.8, 7.8. Does that make sense? Okay. If you want to be a little bit more calculated, you could also measure that off where they actually opened the real-time session today, so closer to like that 5.6 spot. You want to be closer to 4.950. And this makes total sense because look at that reduction in range we just talked about. What's the overhead that we just looked at? Look at my screen. What did we just look at? Wasn't it that 69.49.50? Do you see it? Do you see how they're reducing it? Do you see how today's open and highs are linked directly to basically coming back to that area there? That gives you like a 50% odd, which basically means sustainment, okay, of this area here. Gives you an odd of getting back to highs. Okay? So it's relative to where you close. And where you close is calculated. It's not a random spot that you're closing in. If you're linking it back to just this week's highs, and the only reason I'm using these highs is because they're measured areas. The minimum you'd have to close is our 4142. Okay, we opened today at 45625, I think. I'll just make this exact so we have the exact ranges that we're working with, okay? Okay. Do you see how 4.2 would be calculated? That would be the absolute minimum close that we need to get back to 70.22 retest. 70.28 retest. Do you understand what I'm saying? The better odds, however, are going to be off 6.866. Okay, so you want to close closer to like 6.946. The absolute best odds are 7.1, 7.2. Meaning you want to close where? Where's the 7.1, 7.2 going to be aligned to? I bet anything close to that 6.949. Okay? 6.949 is super calculated. Can someone document these? Do you see that? If you base it off where they actually held in real time today, it was close to like 7.2, I think, 2.5. Where did they hold in real time today? Right here. Okay? It's close to that area, 69.50. Do you see it? These are pinnable areas into the close. Does that make sense? This is kind of what helps those odds. And these are not random areas. These are our annual ranges. These are the 346 point intervals. These are, okay? They're not random spots. Does that make sense? Do you see how that would also be the 256 off this very calculated area? Do you see it? The 256 point range is this area here. It's also the half range. So the best area to pin the close is going to be around this range in here. This is a really nice trade, guys, into the close. Hopefully you guys held because we had higher odds into the last part of the session. 69, 49, 50 is extremely calculated on multiple fronts. The fact that they're able to turn this around here, I deleted my chart, but let me just put the levels back on here. 7.5, 4.9, 50, I think. This area is a huge, huge, huge spot. This is what could allow for those bigger structure breaks. And you can see as soon as they properly clear 4.2, 4.375, you get these nice clean moves. We have duration into close till 4 p.m. based on the 76 to 79 minute interval off open that we looked at earlier and our structure breaks. Okay, so off here. Off here. Off here. We can also measure off like the actual range breaks. Off here. Actually, let me measure off the actual range breaks, because it could mean just slightly into the close. Yeah. That would give odds like just before the bell then. Like if we measure off the exact increments, do you see it? Like here, 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 here. ES has very high odds the last 5 to 10 minutes into the close. Hey, we could see ES ramp actually into the close based on these time intervals and based off meeting 69, 49, 50 ahead of 345, 348. 6966 can be in play. Okay, let me focus on my positions for a bit, guys, because you guys have all the price points, you have all the levels. I know it somehow got deleted, but I put it in the chat anyway. These are the areas that are in play for the session. Okay, so these areas here, if you need them, just copy paste. Above 694950, write these down, is 695150, 695875, 696575, and then we have 6967, 696775, 696975, 697125. There were some odds of like 7.8, 7.9. I think those odds were reduced unless they absolutely snap the 5.8 area, I would say. I'm just going to mark my areas because I don't have them marked. Hold on. 6, 7, 6, 7, 7, 5. And this area up here. These areas are also extremely pinnable into the close. And I always watch the 355 to 354 window anyway, but along with 4.8 and 50, but there's more odds today closer to like 5.2 and 5.8, like basically like right into the close. You guys ready for this? That we could see a really nice trade here, guys, into the close if they want to take this back to those core areas like we said. And that's why I said earlier, like, don't get your hopes down just yet. We still have odds of this, depending on what they do. I figured that 696671 made the most sense today, but we have to see what kind of PA they give us, okay? off these areas here, specifically this 4.9 and 5.8. Okay. Are you guys okay if I just focus here? You guys have all the information needed. I gave you guys every single thing possible, and you should have an idea of how to manage your own trades. I'm targeting these ranges here based on the PA that happened at those calculated times, okay? And based on them taking out 4952. Did you guys hop in with me? Did you take any late end of day SPX, SPY, anything? I told you that they're going to snap this here into the close, especially the last 5 to 8 minutes. We could easily get these price targets here. Those calls just ripped if you tried that. I obviously can't tell you what to buy, but it looked so obvious that they were going to do that. Those calls went from 30 cents to $1.20 in not even like a minute. And I did SPY. I didn't even do SPX. Look at these range breaks, you guys. These are insane. That's why I had to mute myself to focus, because these are going to be really fast trades and not something I want to miss into the close. No, I think you owe me a coffee at least then, Strikerman. I don't always share this, but you guys owe me today some weekend coffee. You think they're gonna actually take out 7-1? 7-9 would be impressive if they tried taking it to 7-8, 7-9. That would be insane. How much time do we have left? $6.92s went in the money into the close. That's pretty wild. That's crazy. I knew that they would do this the last 10 minutes based on what they did during those calculated times. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna try 6966, 6971. I just feel like that there's gonna be a lot of overhead around 64 and 65, but the fact that the calculated points are around here is what is intriguing me to think that they have a tiny probability of taking it out. But if they do, it's going to be like the final minutes because these odds were around the five. What did I say? 5-5, 5-6, and 5-8, and some were like right at close at like exactly 4 and 4:01. So we'll see what they do here. Where do you guys? Sorry, I didn't have time to do any pin the close or anything like that because I wanted to focus. But where do you guys think they're going to take this into close? Give me your pin for the close here, real quick. These are very pinnable spots. They're trying to decipher if they want to keep it beneath 6-5, 6-4, like we talked about earlier, or if they actually want to try snapping 6-6, 6-7, 6-8, 7-1. So far, the 5-5 stick is giving some range reduction. We'll watch the final 20 seconds to see if they can try turning it around. There was more odds around 5-6, 5-8 today than there was off like our generic points in the top, like of time, like the 5-4, 5-5 sticks. Where did they end up stalling? Exactly 6-5-50, right? How much reduction was the stick? 6.25 points is right around that 6-9. Okay, let me shut up for a second. I think 7-1 odds are off the table, Arun, especially for real time, because that 5-5 reduction stick and then no follow through off 5-6, 5-7. The like 5-6 was a more calculated point. Like they could definitely try, I think, retesting 6-5 if they can push like within the first 30 seconds of the 5-9. There was also odds after the close, so like 4-4-1, like around this window here. But in real time, I think it would be tough. I think they'd have to take out range within like the first like 30 seconds here for that to be the case. And I think it would have to be at least this range here, like that 5-9, 6-1, and then like this area here, and then try pushing like 6-3, 6-4. It could be probable for after the bell, but real time I think that's tough. They made it stuck basically in this pinnable type of box range, in my opinion. And 4-9-50 was extremely calculated too, so that was a potential probability to pin back at that range if they stall 6-6. Either way, I think that was still a really good session. So much valuable information, guys, to take from this. So please, please, please try your best to study this. This is a good trade regardless, even with 6-4, 6-5 stalling. There was only really two odds that they could do, and that was either they basically take this between this area here and keep it pinnable, or they try pushing kind of like this, or they can try pushing 6-6, 7-1 into the close. But I think this stall right here off 5-5, 5-6 kind of just gave us the exact sort of probability that they would break. And if we look at this, like 12 points up, I would bet anything that that's probably right around that 7-1, 7-2. Do you see that? Same with if you look at it from like the closing range or opening range, close to 6-7, 7-5. So there is it failed the overhead. I could tell when it started stalling, if you guys pay attention to the 30-second stall here. Do you see it? Do you guys see that? I would say it had to have met these areas here prior to this window for that to have even had a probability. So I could tell as soon as it was like 3:59 and like 35 seconds that that wasn't gonna get that break. So they could still break in the after hours here, but I think that they tried their best to reduce range. So to answer your questions, you could still maybe do like an over weekend long, because 4-9 is still a decent pin. Anywhere around that 4-9. Remember how we said 4-1, 4-2 was the minimum? 4-9, it gives you best odds to retest highs. It would just mean that your closing conditions for the session, ideally you want it over like that 6-6, 6-7, and your opening conditions for the week, you'd obviously want it to be above these ranges here. Okay, I hope everyone has a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys learned something from this stream. I think you should have, but I will see you guys on